All right. Welcome back to another online Conversations. I'm Bob Colt, your host, and I am joined by the president of the Board of Education, Gabrielle Lawrence. Welcome again, Madam
Thank
President.
you. Hello,
So,
Bob.
so tell me, let's start this way. What is the most important thing that anybody in the Lansing School District, either teachers, staff, parents, kids, you think really needs to know? What do they need to know moving forward?
We are successfully engaging in remote learning right now. We have been since school started in September, and we are going to continue at least through the middle of January. As everybody in the area knows, we started this school year with a lot of trepidation. All districts in our area and in our state did feel a lot of trepidation. But I'm so happy and proud to report that in Lansing, we are being successful and we're making a strong go of it. Teachers and students have kind of settled in to the new normal as it stands right now. And we're having a good marking period. We're having a good semester.
Talk a little bit about the decision to go face-to-face online, because Lansing was really one of the first school districts in the state to make that decision. There was a conversation both at the board level and recommendation from the administration to do that. And we had to distribute devices and get people connected and working through issues and problems every day. But as you've said, it's been pretty successful. And from the COVID-19 viewpoint, certainly, I think the board can say that proudly that you've saved a lot of lives.
Absolutely. And as we look at COVID infection rates in our area, in our state, nationwide, we see those rates exponentially going up every day. And every day you open the news and it's like the United States hit a new milestone and have more COVID infection positive rates than we ever did before. We knew we never wanted to contribute to that. We wanted to keep our students and our staff safe and healthy. We knew back in the summertime that the best way to do that was going to be to keep everybody home and to engage in remote learning. So we very consciously said, we're going to announce this decision as early as possible. We're going to give families as much time as possible to make the arrangements that they need to make. I'm so happy that we did that. I'm so proud in hindsight that we announced it so early, because we were able to troubleshoot the major issues that families were reporting, which were internet access, having a device for their child to use, food security, and for families where the kids need to be in a learning lab or in a different environment during the day, we were able to work with a lot of community partners and put those learning labs in place and get them opened up. So for example, if the adults are working during the day and we have a second grader who needs to be somewhere with adult supervision, they can go to one of these myriad locations throughout the district and spend their day there doing their remote learning. I know we've distributed hundreds of hotspots in order to make sure that staff and students have the connectivity that they need. We've distributed, I think, almost 10,000 devices to make sure that each kid has the materials that they need. We continue to do a lot of heavy lifting with meal distribution with our partners at Magic in particular. We've handed out more than 1 million meals since the pandemic started. We know the Lansing School District and the City of Lansing, we are a community. We've got each other's backs. We've had a lot of partnership and a lot of support from the city, and we're just trying to do the same thing and to take care of our people.
Well, and moving forward, the plan is to, after the first of the year, get kids back into the classroom, but we've really got to continue to monitor the COVID-19 status, because while we plan to get back at the end of January, that still may be delayed.
Definitely, it's always still subject to change. I speak to the superintendent and administration several times a week, almost on a daily basis. I know that everybody's keeping their eye on COVID rates, but also on when can we realistically bring the kids safely back in person, because that's everyone's goal. We all have the same goal. We all want the kids to be in the buildings in person. It's best for the kids, it's best for the teachers. We all want that, but we know we need to very deliberately weigh the pros and the cons. We're not going to bring the kids back before it's prudent to do so. So we continue to keep our eye on infection rates. We continue to keep our eye on the feelings of staff as well. Do staff feel comfortable coming back in person? I know in a lot of other districts, unfortunately, they've made the decision against the wishes of their staff to have school in person. The superintendent and I were always very mindful that we ask enough of our teachers. And we certainly don't ever want to put our teachers in a position where they are literally fearing for their lives in order to come to work. So while we want to bring the kids back as soon as we practically can, we're also very mindful that we need to keep staff and their families healthy and safe as well.
Well, and we have the learning labs, as you've mentioned, set up so that working parents can make arrangements for their student to actually be in a safe place and have the online instruction. So we made a big decision to suspend extracurricular activities in the fall, reschedule those hopefully in the spring. And we're even moving forward with the plan for sports in the winter. That's all. I mean, those were very difficult decisions to make, weren't they?
Yeah, canceling fall extracurriculars and sports was actually a lot more difficult than deciding to do remote learning. And we got hundreds of times of more feedback about sports and extracurriculars than we did about doing remote learning. I know that is really difficult for kids, especially kids who play fall sports and are seniors. They don't get to have that senior fall season. So that's why we've been very mindful that we want to give these kids the opportunity to compete in the springtime, if at all possible. That is our plan. Our plan as of now is to have fall sports running in the springtime. We're also tentatively moving forward with winter sports. Again, we're hoping that infection rates start to decrease again, start to remain relatively low. We're hoping that MHSAA offers some guidelines that we're confident are going to keep spectators and participants safe. But we always reserve the right that if we don't think that if we can engage in sports safely, then we will have to revisit that decision. I'm very hopeful that we will be able to have fall sports, because as a former high school athlete at Sexton High School, go Big Reds, I understand how important those sports are, but our number one priority is to keep everybody safe and healthy.
And you had to get that Big Reds plug in there. So that's great. So now we kind of can look back and say all of those difficult decisions are paying off because we've been successful. There's always a speed bump in the road to learning, and we've adapted and made some changes in how we're delivering an educational product. But from what you're hearing so far, so good. It could be better, but
could be better, could be worse.
Yeah.
I know that there were just this week, tweaks were introduced to the remote learning schedules in order to minimize screen time that kids are doing every day, which I think is a great thing, because the feedback that we got was, we understand why we're doing remote learning, we understand why we're doing this, but my kid is spending too much time in front of the screen. Message received, let's tweak the schedule. So that's exactly what the administration did. So that's been really wonderful. I said this whole time, we need feedback from families. If you have a problem, if you have an issue, if you have a concern, if you have a question, if you have a suggestion, please tell us. Although the executive team prides themselves on having strong communication with families, we don't know everything that families are going through. So in a recent board meeting, for example, we had a couple parents talk about how the screen time expectations for younger kids, like kindergarten and first grade kids, screen time was too much. Okay, thank you so much for that feedback. We changed the schedule. So there really is two-way communication between the district and the families, and we rely on that. Because when families say, we have this problem, okay, let's figure out how to solve that problem in order to make this as successful as we can for everyone. We know we're not going to make everyone happy. We can't. I don't even know what that would look like during COVID times. But our number one priority this year, as I keep saying, is to keep kids healthy and safe, and we're doing that the best we
I really think it's an amazing story when you think about all of the developments in 2020, how the school district was able to react. The good news is when kids do come back and staff returns to the school, there's been a lot of work
can.
in the schools, in the environment, in construction and school improvements. Talk a little bit about that because we're in a pretty good place right now.
Yeah, we are. So in recent years, in the last 5 years, we've passed not only the Halfway Promise Bond, but also the renewal of a sinking fund. So we have these dollars that we have been given by taxpayers that we can use to make improvements to our buildings. It's always been kind of tricky to say we need to do these major projects like replace the roof at Sexton, the boiler at Everett, whatever it may be. We've had these major projects that need to get done, but how do we do them when there are kids in the buildings? So we've had a great opportunity this year to move forward and to get some of those projects done and not have to interrupt the school day. Another great advantage that I see coming out of remote learning. So for example, we have Japanese offered at Everett High School, and it's not offered at the other two high schools. But I'm thinking, hey, we've got this remote learning process down now. If there's a kid at Sexton and they want to enroll in a class at Everett, now we know how to do that. We know how to put the teacher on the screen so the Sexton student can also be learning Japanese with the Everett students. So I'm always somebody who tries to think about what are the positives that could come out of this kind of not great situation that we're in. And I think that is potentially one of them. I know people have talked about, well, we can get rid of snow days now. I'm not sure how I feel about that.
Yeah.
I think about my days at Moores Park and at Dwight Ridge when a snow day was called. You know, as a kid, that is the best gift you could ever be given in your life. And you could go sledding and just hang out and watch Saved by the Bell if you were in my generation. And I don't want to rob our kids of those memories that they get to make during childhood. I don't think the superintendent does either. As a father and grandfather, I think he's also very attuned to the fact that snow days are kind of rare, magical things that staff and students look forward to. So I don't anticipate eliminating snow days, but I think that potentially having different classes and different curriculum open to students in different schools could be a great thing that comes out of this.
Well, as Board of Education President, we're going to try to put 2020 aside, but as Board of Education President looking forward to 2021, give people a little insight of what's coming up for the next year.
Well, people might have forgotten because I kind of forgot about it, but we still need to hire a new superintendent. We have Superintendent Sampson Akropi with us for the remainder of this year, but if you remember, just about a year ago, we were starting that search for our next superintendent, and we are getting ready to revisit that again and reapproach that search. So we will be engaging the public and engaging our community yet again as we identify candidates for that position. But that's going to be something really major, really exciting that's coming up in our district. There also are always different programs going on in the district. There are some different things that I'm thinking about, some major things with regard to I'm hesitant to even say it because it's kind of a pipe dream for me, but what I would like to see is a district being able to offer low cost, high quality childcare for parents with really young children. I think about countries like France, where I spent a lot of time after I finished my undergrad. But in France, the government provides high quality childcare. And I think in the last presidential election from candidates like Elizabeth Warren, we heard a lot about that issue. That's a really, really important issue. And I think if we can somehow, as the Lansing School District, offer that programming to our families, that it's a slow burn, but I think in 10, 15, 20 years, we would see a dramatically different Lansing School District. So that's something that I'm kind of noodling on. I don't know if anything will come of it, but if I had one priority for the remaining years that I have on the school board, it would be that.
Well, and coming up, we're going to have a new food truck, mobile food truck in the Lansing School District. That's kind of cool too. We'll be taking food right out into the communities.
Yep, that's really cool. That's something also that we're very excited about. And since we have been such good financial stewards with our money, with our budget, we were able to purchase this food truck this year. Food trucks, you know, Lansingites love a food truck. I do too. El Oasis on Michigan Avenue is one of my personal favorites, and I think it is going to be so awesome to see the Lansing School District food truck riding around town. Throughout this pandemic, as I mentioned earlier, we provided more than 1 million meals to our community. That's something that's extremely important to me. I know that in Lansing, a lot of people deal with food insecurity, and that was something that we knew we could immediately affect some change in our city. So we have done that. We've continued to do that, and this is a way that we're going to do it even on an even greater scale.
Well, let me say before you do and our audience hears it, go Big Reds, one more time. And Board of Education President Gabrielle Lawrence, thank you very much for joining us in this conversation today.
Thank you.